Farm for Profit Podcast. Take a listen, have a blast. Farm for Profit Podcast. Learn about farming while having a laugh. Farm for Profit Podcast.
Hey, listeners, welcome back to the Farm for Profit Podcast. You got Tanner here.
Corey's here.
And we're all here. David's here
We're
as well.
all here. This is kind of neat. We're in studio. We weren't in studio about 2.5 hours ago. We were out live doing the first ever equipment auction that we've ever done.
Yeah, we don't have a real good name for that yet. What should we call that?
Simulcast podcast.
It was badassery is what it was.
Tanner was a little hungry, so he had to have some of his
I just
wieners and his
apparently
special ice.
Apparently I eat slower than you do. You guys must have wolfed yours
We
down.
wolfed them down because we were trying to get in here.
That's good. I'll just eat on the mic so somebody has something to watch so they can make fun of the way I eat. You have a problem with watching people or people watching you eat?
I
No.
think that would be not like in a personal setting, like out to eat, but like
Which way are you supposed to eat a hot dog?
Sideways.
You're supposed to eat it like this?
Yeah.
Always bring your head to the hot dog. Not your hot dog to the
I
head.
think the bigger question is it a sandwich or not? I think that's been
Yeah.
Ah,
ongoing.
yes. And now you probably recognize that
oh,
name.
I think I see a
We
hair on it.
are excited. Well, that'd probably be your hair. Oh.
There is a hair.
I washed my hands.
I'm telling you. What else did you not wash? Yes.
I washed
He did
my
go to the bathroom right before he
I
fired
did
it
wash my hands though.
Okay. Well, listeners, we thank you for tuning in to us. We appreciate you as always. We're going to do this for the first time ever. We've never done a report summary episode. So if you like this, you need to go to farmforprofitllc@gmail.com and send us a message or call us 515-207-9640 to see if you'd like us to kind of summarize these reports like we're going to do today. Of course, it came out on Friday, which is when we're recording this, and this episode's airing on Monday.
Quick turnaround.
Very quick turnaround for us. And it is our pleasure to have Andrew Kubish. We learned it's pronounced Kubish like rubbish, if I took my notes correct. Is that right, Andrew?
You got her spot on.
You've been on the podcast before. You are a member of the Lighthouse Commodities team. You are the Chief Operating Officer, and you've got a rich background in the grain industry that is going to help us talk through this report for the first time ever on the Farm for Profit podcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Are you missing your
Yeah,
phone?
I am. I left it out with wieners
Left it out
on the grill, on the Farm for Profit grill. You can't take that home now, Tanner.
Nope.
What a day to start doing a report because I don't think it was very friendly. So we're going to find out about that,
Yeah.
at least on the corn side of things.
So, Andrew, why don't you reintroduce yourself to our listeners?
Yeah, certainly. Andrew Kubish, as you mentioned, Chief Operating Officer for Lighthouse Commodities. We're based out of Bismarck, North Dakota. I actually office out of my home in south central Nebraska, Deschler, Nebraska to be specific, 95% of my time. And my wife farms with her family down here, so well in touch with the world of ag every day, whether it's markets or production side. So that's been my life's passion. Spent most of my early career working for Schooler Company out in western Nebraska, and a few things led one to another, and here I am today with Lighthouse. So, it's been a fun journey, and I wish I had great, wonderful things to bring to you today as it relates to USDA reports, but I don't think we found any less acres or found any less stocks, unfortunately. So.
Okay, so before we get into the report that actually was released today, historically, how big of a market mover has this report been in the past?
Yeah, I mean, if you look, almost every year, especially since the dawn of the quote-unquote ethanol age, early 2000s, we've seen, limit moves both directions in both commodities. Oftentimes you'll see 30, 40 cent moves in corn, and, we've seen upwards of dollar moves in beans. As we think of the trade, it's not just the day reaction, but, the couple days following. So Monday, Tuesday price action will be a little interesting as we, get down the road a few days and let the market kind of digest this.
It's been a while since we've seen a limit move, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I thinking back here, we haven't. I think it's probably back. As we kind of came out of the Ukrainian invasion, I think we had some limit down moves through there. Obviously, limit up moves during. But yeah, we haven't. Markets have been certainly volatile, but not to quite limit levels here. For extended periods of time.
Interesting. So what was this report called today?
This was our final planted. Well, it wouldn't be our final. It's our planted acres report that USDA comes out. So this would be a survey taken late May, early June of the selected group of USDA's selected producers that send their surveys back in of what they actually have put in the ground. Obviously, as we all know, for a lot of the actual producers out there, you don't actually finish final reporting until July to USDA. So it still is just a true survey, but you would have captured a good chunk, but there were still some question marks out there in late May in some areas as it related to what things were finally getting put in the ground.
July 15th, I think, is when we have to have our FSA paperwork in on what we planted, and trying to think back to put myself in late May, early June mindset. We had an early window of planting here in central Iowa, and then we had rain. I know out east was rain early. Then they got fast and furious. Nebraska seemed like they had a pretty good planting window.
Yeah, we were pretty blessed this year. Generally speaking, most guys had, we were in early, and then even the few delays we had were a couple days max, and stuff was really timely. A lot of our North Dakota clients, much like you guys, were in, through first week of May, and then they were shut out to almost first of June here on stuff. But crop did get in.
But this probably is not reflecting any of the flooding that has happened in northwest Iowa, southwest Minnesota, southeast South Dakota, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you got two things there. I mean, I think certainly devastating for the towns that, it impacted, but as the adage goes, I mean, you probably wiped out 2% of the acres in that area.
Right.
5% were damaged, and the balance actually was probably beneficial. So in the end, yeah, we definitely would not get reflected in the report. I today anyway. I think looking forward, you probably got to look at like abandonment acres, as we get further down the road. But, we're talking like half of 1% or something that was probably totally impacted, on that front.
Corey, I went in to certify acres at the FSA office the other day, and when I did, I asked the question, well, if everybody's certifying their acres, why are we making surveys with guesses on why the heck, how many acres were planted? Don't you guys have a database that knows this?
It's the government, Dave.
And this is what was told to me is, well, not everybody certifies their acres. You don't have to. She said, so the survey makes up for that.
It does.
It provides another way to make an educated guess.
Yep. You don't have to certify your acres or participate in programs. So there's lots of people that don't.
So when do we get into the hard numbers of the actual certified acres?
They'll start comparing. I mean, as soon as, obviously the 15th, you won't see them into the WASDs, but next until this month, or this, what will be July coming up here shortly, August, September, you'll start to see them making notes about, hey, this is, referencing, they'll start referencing the actual USDA certified acres in there, especially in like 19 when we had a lot of PP. You noticed that they were actually, working, looking really hard at those certified acres in those, August and SEP reports because they knew there was going to be some discrepancies versus where they even thought they were going to be in this report.
Right. I told Dave, this is Dave's first year farming, and it's been like a wet spring. Mm-hmm. We had a lot of replant. I know a lot of people had a lot of replant. We did get it replanted for the most part. So those holes aren't going to be zero.
If my family got replanted, everybody got
that's
replanted.
True. But those holes aren't going to be zero unless they get flooded out again. But we've lost a lot of nitrogen, all that. I said, Chicago always thinks rain makes grain. Mm-hmm. We've been doing really well in dry years, but I think if there's going to be, it's a big if there's going to be any less yield, it's going to probably take the combine to roll. Would you say that Andrew?
Yeah, I mean that's my same sentiment as well. I mean, it's not as if we're going to have an abject disaster, Corn Belt wide, but it's a sneaking thing on these white years. Corn likes a certain amount of wet feet, but not for extended periods, and nitrogen loss, and all those things. You get shallow rooted, syndrome, etc. And you pull in, and man, you thought this crop was going to be 300, 350, or some crazy number because everything should have been perfect, and you get there and you're like, man, where'd it go? It's not that it's just an abject disaster, but I think it does surprise some guys. And yeah, I know we got some friends over at Stone X that have pulled some numbers like that, and yeah, it's pretty apparent, especially in Iowa. And I think it follows elsewhere that the wetter years, it's not an abject disaster, but it certainly you just don't get quite that top end because you just don't have the heat and the right combo of things to make that corn just be perfect.
Right.
So what were Lighthouse commodity customers doing ahead of the report?
Immediately to the report here today, I mean, we were pretty much just standing pat. We were aggressively hedging grain, late April through mid-May as the board rallied there. You were approaching, resistant levels and some of those gaps, both in the corn and bean board. And, hearkening back to our previous episode a while back, we had mentioned our hedge beacon product, which is our kind of our price signals product. And, early May, we were getting sell signals on our corn and bean wheat pricings. And, anytime that happens, that really cues us up to say, hey, we need to probably be doing something here. And generally, especially if you're getting a rally based upon planting delays, that's something that, even in 19, once the market figured it out, it was a quick slope downward on that front. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of a weird rally this year, to be honest. I mean, you kind of hung out up there in those, 480, 490 levels for, a couple of weeks there. You had some opportunities, but it was not like a typical summer rally where you just blew the top off and everybody was like, oh my gosh, now we're going to 7, and then 2 days later you're $3 lower. It was kind of an odd thing. And I think there was some thought that we may be getting a secondary rally here in July. Some of these forecasts have stayed hot and dry, but looking at the 2-week forecast now through mid-July, you've got pretty much inch plus 2-inch rains and moderate heat throughout most of the Corn Belt, which certainly is not anything like the 2012 or something that somebody would, try to consider it to be.
Well, we've certainly made room for a rally. I feel like I was talking to Dave. Dave was just getting into the marketing phase, trying to figure out, and he's like, and I think we're at 490, 480, like you're talking about. And Dave's like, I got some targets in at $5 or a little over $5, and I said, put them on just under there, so you get some on the books. And I had some that hit, had some that missed, but all of a sudden we got busy trying to spray and do all this other stuff. I wasn't paying much attention myself, and I look back and I'm like, whoa.
It just kind of
where'd the 70 cents go?
Yeah.
Or whatever it is now. I saw they were down today, but man.
Yeah, and and I think you look at price reaction to the report today. I think we had some of this built in already. I mean, it wasn't as if this was the expectations were a little under where we ended up here, but we weren't limited down like, oh my gosh, we found 2 million more acres and stuff like that.
Let's go through some of those numbers.
As we recorded here on Friday, corn, wheat, beans. Let's go near month, and
we'll just go through the report. Say what was estimated.
Yep. I was just going to give them a summary of where we ended up price-wise for the day.
Yeah, so we came into the report today. Trade estimates were roughly 90.5. Call it was rough trade estimates. We clocked in today at 91.5, so about a million more acres than expected. Beans, we were around an 86.2 coming in and ended up, pretty much in line, slightly down versus expectations. But for those of you that care about wheat, we were slightly lower, but those of us in Northern Plains, we cared just a little bit. But to that point, I mean, it wasn't as the market wasn't expecting a huge move. I think there was this big question mark from the March numbers as it related to 6 million principal crop acres that quote unquote disappeared, and I think there was question marks about where those went. I think looking today, I think we found about 2.5 million of them, according if you looked at stuff. But I guess solar farms and development seems to keep chewing things up there, or so claimed. But to that point, it wasn't that far out of line. But I think with the weather forecast where it's at and everything, that you saw the price reaction that you did today.
So I got a text that said, since the corn didn't like the extra acres, do you wonder where they came from? And I don't know how much fact behind this was. It's Kansas found 600,000 acres. Iowa found 300,000 acres of corn. Nebraska found 250,000, and Minnesota found another 200,000 acres of corn compared to where it had been previously.
Which, when you put it like that, doesn't sound crazy.
Right.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to, obviously the USDA has their methodology about all this, but as you mentioned earlier, it's a survey, both March and this thing, so it's adjusted for survey methodology. So it when you're talking 180 million principal crop acre plus, a small percent that's statistically insignificant actually is statistically significant as it relates to total cropping acres. So not shocking there. And obviously, I think if you want to look at like Kansas numbers, even Nebraska, we had relatively wet springs out there, and you probably picked up quite a few dry land acres that were maybe intended to go back to wheat or milo or something, and would guess that that's not shocking that you would have seen some of those acres show up, especially with relatively decent planting conditions in that time frame.
You got to think the satellites could just analyze this.
They do have some satellite imagery
And
later.
NASA's even,
don't they?
Yeah.
I mean, just color on the deal, as it changes.
Yeah, NASA actually does have utilize. They have a database, geospatial, that they can utilize. I don't know what the claimed accuracy on it, but I think they do utilize it actually in verifying where they think acres are going to land on the year. So it's using more and more, and just like NDVI scores and stuff like that, you can kind of take a rough idea of where vegetative health is going to be as the season goes on too.
For actual just acre counting, not trying to predict yield or anything.
Yeah.
Truterra tells me what crop I had planted 5 years ago in this field with like 90-some% accuracy. They should be down pretty good, I would think.
Okay, so Andrew, we can't change the report. We can't change what's happened so far. This episode comes out on Monday. We know there's obviously going to be overnight for the weekend as far as trade goes, but if we got a listener that picks this up right away Monday morning, let's talk through each crop and what some key takeaways are and some things that we can be doing for our listener. Now, let's probably break it into a couple of different buckets, right? Somebody who's been actively selling and somebody who hasn't got much of this crop sold yet.
Yeah, certainly. I think the active hedger, I'll start with them as it relates to just, corn today. Probably no real reason to, lift a hedge or anything like that. I think just stay the course. You buy yourself time to, wait this thing out a little bit. Probably, more, complicated is the guy that, maybe has sold some of his 23 crop, maybe didn't get much of his 24 crop marketed. That's where things are going to get tough here. I mean, you put some projected numbers behind a 181 crop with the numbers we're at today. You're talking 2.5 billion carryout potentially. You look at we look statistically at those numbers. That's a $3.50 to $4 final price, harvest low price range potentially on stuff like that. and that's not very fun to complicate or contemplate, excuse me. But I think if you're behind, you maybe wait this thing out just a touch here, another week or two, as we see if we possibly get anything more in July. But we're kind of past the seasonal window here. I think the bigger thing is, probably selling some carries out to next summer. You still got 450, 460 July corn next year. That's not a lot of fun, but if we're thinking $3 could be in play here, it's still better than a stick in the eye, so to speak.
You imagine that 450 corn, and you're in July having to run the sweep across your bin.
Mm-hmm.
Are you happy?
Not happy.
Not happy.
But he said that 350 to 4, and we were in that range, that 3 to 4, for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember thinking, man, if we could just get to $4, get 415, something like that. Now it's all relative, right? Like, it all has to do with what you're paying for fuel and fertilizer, all your inputs and all that, So that's why we're here, right? Like, we should be able to make money at any market. We have to figure that out. It's just the input suppliers have gotten so good at squeezing every last penny, knowing how far to push. So we got to be good managers of all of that.
Yeah, so if we've been actively engaging in sales and positions for the 24 crop, we're going to hang tight next week. Probably almost the same move for those that are a little bit further behind in making sales to see if we get a bump in corn. Is what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I think that relates to new crop. I mean, I think if you still have some old crop inventory, the one thing we have been seeing that's been a bit of a saving grace, Iowa basis, Nebraska basis, 30, 40 over, a guy may want to go at least get some, basis laid up here and or get some board hedge or just sell some cash, as much as you don't want to think about it. I mean, if you're, taking the 2014 analog, which has been a year that a lot of people have been comparing to. I mean, we took that board all the way down to 320 that year. Basis can do a lot for you, but it's not gonna make a buck up for you anytime soon.
Yeah.
Of interest, coming out of the stocks numbers today, commercial corn and bean stocks basically in the elevator were basically the same as a year ago. All of the stocks out there today are basically being held on farm. With, I think what I see Illinois today was like 62% higher than a year ago in on-farm stocks. So there is still a pile of old crop corn that needs to move. And, eventually it's either going to get forced out as harvest comes around or, dictated when guys need money at some point here. And so I, definitely would be taking advantage of some basis opportunities here. And possibly just getting that priced up and turning it to cash, because you're probably 3 to 6 months here, at least 3 months of probably just mediocre price action on the board.
Why do you think that is? There's that much sitting on farm still.
I mean, it's a direct reflection. I think it all goes back to, 2 or 3 really good years here. Guys are still trying to manage tax. I don't know how many times I've heard guys say, well, I can't sell any grain because I don't want to pay taxes. And, there's plenty of tools to avoid that. And that's, well, you've cured your tax problem now if you just lost $1.50 on your, grain inventory. But to that point, I think a lot of guys, they were undersold on 23. They're likely now undersold on 24. Buried the head in the sand. They still got cash on hand. They don't feel the squeeze quite yet, but it's coming, and it's, I think, coming fairly quick.
They would have been better off to sell it and buy a farm, use Bo-Safra.
Yeah, there you go.
Bo-Safra.
Yeah.
Like our last
Just for
episode.
the tax deduction.
Right.
Get the tax deduction.
As long as you can get your federal tax credit back, you're good to go. So.
There you go.
Okay, so what about soybeans?
Soybeans, I mean, certainly stocks, same story. Stocks a little higher. Actually expected acreage was, pretty much in line, just slightly off. But, we got a tale of 2 stories there. I mean, it really comes down to, again, as it relates to, the guy that's well hedged, probably don't chase it a whole lot today. Maybe wait. We all know beans are made in August, and we get 1 or 2 dry weeks in there. Might get enough of a bounce to get you back up into that high 11s, low 12 range. Seems like that could be fleeting, but with the acres we got today, if we're at 52 national yield, which is what USDA is projecting, I mean you're well into that 400 million bushel carry out, and that's indicative of stocks to use numbers that are sub $11 easily on that front. So we probably got a few more windows here, but it's going to be fleeting. Same thing on beans here. We've seen pretty good basis opportunities on these old crop beans. So if you've got some old crop beans, probably take advantage of it. Possibly even roll those basis contracts out to Nove and take advantage of that inverse, and then look for that window and don't get you get a couple day rally at a number that you think kind of is good enough that may be the thing that you want to lay off here. But again, 2014, not that it's going to be analogous to T, but I mean, we basically fell off from this day forward all the way into October, corn and beans that year.
Is there anything that can...
I'm hoping inflation adjusted wise, that means we're only due for maybe another 20 or 30 cents. But, we shall see.
Is there anything that can be a world event that can affect us that's in our crystal ball? China buying more, Brazil not producing what they should, war with Ukraine. I mean, is there anything that's on the top of our mind that might cause this to rally?
I think short term it's going to be tough. We're still kind of playing through this. As you look at the wheat market, at least you're playing through this Russian drought situation over there. That Black Sea region, Ukraine and Russia, both had a little improvement, but it looks like extended forecast warming up and drying back out again. Obviously, Ukraine's been the provider of least cost corn to the world markets here, even with their issues getting it out of country. But they look like they probably could be down. You really aren't going to have a South American story here till September, October, as they start rolling around to their new crop seedings. Certainly, you've got a potential for a La Nina coming around, but even those aggressive La Nina forecasts have backed off and kind of gone INSO neutral, through late summer here. So yeah, you're kind of maybe banking on a South American issue here by late fall, early spring. Obviously there's a lot of black swan, gray swan things that you can't even contemplate today. I mean, escalation of the Black Sea conflict outside of the region. Some other things that who knows, obviously, saber rattling over Taiwan and stuff like that. But I would definitely not be bullish market on that front. Even the Chinese purchases, quite frankly, we need them more than we need them to buy new crop beans more than anything. I don't know that would give us much of a move higher other than just say, finally, we got the business on.
Right. How about one big factor, presidential election?
I was just thinking about that. We just had the debate.
Yeah. I mean,
The report was
whether
about like the
whether
debate.
this guy or this guy gets in, is either one, could it affect it? And if so, how? I mean, is Trump going to come in and save the world, and then all of a sudden, I mean, how could he even? I don't even see a way that.
I mean, the last time he was in, he was kind of pretty
Markets dropped in MFP payments.
pretty harsh on China on trade war type
Yep.
stuff. So
Yeah, I mean, you got to have that in your back of your mind because, and I'm sure that, the Chinese do as well. So yeah, maybe we do see a little run on beans here as they maybe try to get something booked. But I mean, if potentially that's where we go, administration wise, we lived through 17, 18, 19 and saw what the bean market did those years, and I'm pretty sure there was an 8 in front of beans at one point in that span. And, our saving grace and all of that, I guess, was our market recovery. What was it? I've lost track of that.
MFP. Yep.
MF. Yeah.
we had a lot of different stuff.
Yeah.
MFP and then the
PPP.
small biz,
Yep.
a bunch of just
Payments,
But,
more payments.
yeah.
Certainly not something we want to deal with, but I mean, I mean, it's pretty obvious that it's already been noted that he wants to slap 60% tariffs on quite a few things if he does get back in office. So I think he even got the market probably even fading that just a bit today too, with the expectation that could potentially come down, and certainly after the debate. We'll just leave it at that to draw your own conclusions.
Right,
from the debate.
right.
But,
So you
yeah.
feel you said that a similar year you saw $3.50 to $4 corn in something like this. And it feels like negative around like more chance to go down than we do to go back up unless we get a weather event or something like that. What can we do to protect ourselves?
That's a fun one. The biggest thing I think when you look at these markets is, the old adage, just go sell the carry. The market's going to continue to widen carries out. If we have a 2.5 billion bushel carry out, obviously the commercial, the farmer, whoever has to carry that grain. The market can't all take that at once. Whatever. So I think to that point, like I said, 450 July corn, stuff like that. It doesn't sound like a lot of fun today. Talk to your local grain buyers, the guys you work with. There's a lot more of these, exotic, and not to push them too hard, but I mean, premium offers and some stuff like that, where if our bias is this market's just going to trade sideways for the next 12 months or, pretty low volatility, those are the times that you want to be utilizing those type of contracts, get some extra premium out of the market, that extra, 20, 30 cents on a sold call at a number, that a person, if you can make 480 July corn next summer and, have pretty strong basis levels against it, it's not fun, but it's, better than 350 cash corn.
The real answer is, does Suka have publicly traded stock? Because if there's that much carryover, somebody's got to carry it somewhere.
Put it in a bin.
So we need to put it in a bin.
Oh, they're private company there, but I tell you when not to build a bin site was to make you feel like you need to put it was last fall. Should have just taken it all to town, But at this shiny new bin site that you want to fill it up, right?
Heck
put
yeah.
this up and yeah.
So I assume, Andrew, this is when you guys start getting a lot of phone calls. People kind of hit the oh shit button and they go, I need some help. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, we've been, it kind of started in, I want to say honestly, February, March. We started getting a few more calls, and it seems like every week there's, 2, 3, 4 guys calling. Some of them looking just for a, some magic bullet, but in our business, it's the long-term strategies. It's obviously we can't make $5 corn again, but let's not do the incorrect things that, turn a poor marketing year into even worse marketing year. In this day and age, and like we talked about this when I was on in November, I mean, interest rates, still obviously not dropped any, and now you got money on the operating line, and corn's down, and cash is still king here. It may not meet your final price expectations, but 6 more months of interest. I think it's just indicative of just like you guys going to the equipment auction today.
Yes.
These dealers are seeing it and saying, you know what, let's just cut our losses. Let's just clear this inventory and make this somebody else's problem and turn it into cash, because we're probably in for, 12 to 24 months of not a lot of fun here.
I do challenge you to do that calculation. If you have a large operating line, figure out what that interest is costing you on a daily, monthly basis, quarterly, whatever, and it might be better just to take a little bit of a loss and turn it into cash and quit bleeding on the interest side of things, because it can sneak up on you real quick, and that's where people get in trouble. Tanner knows.
Yeah, it's interesting. We had our open house, yesterday, and been a busy week. And it's kind of interesting to see some of my old banking connections talking about how it's the least fun that it's been for them.
I bet. What a great time to get out.
Yeah, it worked. Yeah, can't say I made a lot of great decisions in my life, but that might have been a good one. No, but ultimately it does provide a really important period of time for us to be thinking about what our bottom line looks like and truly understanding what our break even is and truly understanding what our appetite for loss is, because everybody's appetite for loss is completely different. Mm-hmm. Some can withstand a little bit, some can't withstand it all. You know, I've got a couple producers in my mind right now that we know are fans of the podcast. We've met and helped through some situations, and boy, if they weren't forward marketing, this could hurt a lot.
Yeah, and you know, again, there's no magic bullet. You know, at this point, I think you know, hope and prayer. You know, a little bit on that front, but you know, I think that's why you know, you really probably need to find if you keep finding that you're not doing what you need to do, I think you need to find a professional to help you out with it too, because just like you said, you're out working, spraying, trying to get the last of the replant done. Boom. Boards off 70 cents, and you know, you just kind of, you know, well, you know,
I will say my strategy through planting and all that, yes, I wasn't paying as close of attention as I probably should have, but I did put targets on, which hit on the rally up. It just didn't keep going to my other targets, but yeah, that was how, like, my peace of mind, like, I'm not going to worry about that. But yeah, if I had someone watching it for me every day, I'd probably feel a lot better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's you know, we, you know, selling grain ahead and just paying attention to, you know, what the market's telling us and being in it every day. You know, especially if you're out there at, you know, 11 o'clock at night and, you know, completely thinking about other things. You know, that's guys like myself and others in the industry. I know some guys get a bad rap, so to speak, when you talk about grain merchandisers and futures brokers, but I think the general part is we still want to see our clients succeed. And, you know, certainly I take a vested interest in everybody that I'm working with, and, you know, we want that operation to be around for many years to come, not just, you know, churning profits for ourselves or whatever.
How many farmers just get, where am I going with this? I'm going to say depressed. How many get depressed? I've always tried to just surround myself with people that are positive people, and
you chose us.
Yeah, and keep the negative out. So how many guys just said, "Screw the report. I don't care what comes out in that report. It's farming is farming." Today, and how many people said, "Oh, I gotta wait. It's 10 o'clock. I gotta know."
I'm guessing less than 30% had the "I don't care what comes out of the report" mentality.
And even if they said that, I bet they still, you know, they still probably dwelled on them.
You think so?
It's such a mental takedown, and this spring shows that. Not even on the marketing side, just I did everything possibly right in my power to get the crop in the best way I possibly could, and yet you still find yourself planting sins, planting when conditions you shouldn't, Mother Nature blowing out dams and doing all this kind of stuff. Like, that's the mentality behind this. Is it's so hard on a farmer. The markets go down. They can't control that. They can't control the weather. It just sucks when it's bad. It's great when it's great. Really sucks when it sucks.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully you guys, if you do have any problems with that, please talk to someone.
Yep.
Talk to your friends. Talk to your family. There is help, because your life is way more important than farming. Farming is a career. Mm-hmm. We love it a lot more than that. But, like, you got to help yourself out, man. Like, there's so many other ways to make money, too.
There is. You certainly could. You certainly will find your way out of it, and it is. It's probably painful for a lot. If you had to guess, Andrew, right now, what is the percentage of 2024 crop on average that is sold, corn and beans?
I would guess you're probably, you know, I'm going to guess 80% of the producers out there probably have less than 20% sold.
Okay, so if you're feeling bad right now, you literally are not the only person.
Mm-hmm. I would have thought 10% would have been my guess. I just
guess it probably is 80% of 20 something. I mean,
but you're right, Andrew, and I appreciate that perspective, because even if you're off a little bit, it still reassures that listener that you don't have to walk into the coffee shop or the elevator or the seed dealer and feel like your neighbor's doing it better than you. If they are, great.
They're always going to say they are, but
right.
Yeah.
If they are, great. But don't put yourself in a position to where this is something that's going to really determine the way your mood is.
So if you think you are tight, how many people start liquidating equipment, old equipment, let's say.
I tell you what, if you're tight, go talk to your banker tomorrow.
You know what I mean?
If you start the communication early, whether it's bills on a seed bill or a fertilizer bill or whatever it is, if you're going to have a problem,
talk to them early.
go tell them. But anyway, continue your question.
I'm just thinking, is there going to be more, like we were at equipment auction today that's selling? What about the guy that's got 2 or 3 pieces, like, okay, I don't need 2 combines. Let's get rid of one. Let's soften up that balance sheet a little bit on what we're thinking, because cash is king, and we're going to bring some cash back and not have the operating note.
Go one step further. Say they want to do a sale lease back on a piece of ground.
Yeah.
Get that and turn it into cash. Like Andrew said, if you're in a pinch, there are solutions. It's not over.
And ground, probably, it's still holding value.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The equipment sliding a little bit.
Yep.
Although today's sale was good. Acreage
Very
had a great
good.
sale today.
Very good.
So.
Yeah, and I think you said it right too, Tanner. I mean, if you think you've got something coming up, I mean, or just like, hey, I don't know where I'm at. Go talk to your lender first of all. I mean, and be open with them, because you try to hide these problems and manifest at renewal time, and you got half of your old crop and no new crop sold, and you were balance sheets didn't look like they thought they were 6 months ago. That's going to be a less friendly conversation than hey, let's just face the reality of let's turn this to cash, like you said. Let's look at some creative options. Last couple times we've been in these markets, we've been able to finance our way out of it, terming out some debt and getting some payments down. That's certainly not nearly in the cards as it is, today with interest rates where they're at. But, look through the options
And honestly, if you have a creditor right now that saw this report and isn't going to make a lot of phone calls next week,
I'm not answering.
I'm not answering.
Your creditor's not doing their job, whether it's on the input financing side or bank financing or farm credit system or wherever you get your financing. If they're not doing a little wellness check themselves, they probably deserve to have a wellness check done.
Yeah, maybe.
Well.
Well, there's a lot of bankers that probably feel this too. I mean, because they get emotionally involved.
But this is another one of those things, Andrew, we've always preached our advisory team. Somebody like yourself sits on this advisory team. If you've got an agronomist that you're a favorite with and an attorney that you're a favorite with and someone in finance that if you had an advisory team put together, this is when you call a meeting. Let's see where we're at. Let's honestly take a look at this and establish what our next steps are. If you don't have an advisory team, it's a pretty darn good time to try and put one together. I would focus really hard on the talent that you're going to put on that team, because they're walking into a situation that might take a little extra thought and position.
Now, what could we do on the profit side? So on the profit side, let's get rid of the negative tone here and let's go positive. How can I improve my bushels? So, okay, price is down. Let's just make more. Mm-hmm. Let's make more of it. Let's do a better job. I always think this, like, okay, if I'm not making money here, well, then we're going to have to work another job. We're going to have to figure it out. So arguably, there's still ways to maybe make our corn do better. We were talking fungicide this morning. Mm-hmm. So do we spend money to make money in hopes that our yield is better, and instead of 200, we're getting 260, and we made the margin?
I mean, I wouldn't say fungicide is going to get you 60 bushel average. I mean, I would look at your history on whether that is something that has paid for you. I wouldn't go whole hog, because you can end up spending more and not getting a result out of it too. Make sure your disease triangle's there, that you have the chance for disease.
You know what I'm saying? But I'm guessing if we brainstormed as a advisory group here, I bet there's more than one way to.
Right, and a lot of things that we have, shows that we have on, like desiccating of soybeans or things like that can just pick up a little bit here that are pretty fundamental. I like to get back to the basics.
That's a good point. Usually, if we talked baseball on the drive back today.
Yep.
If you are a baseball player, you've ever played baseball, you've had that coach that you're down 2 runs, and what does he preach? We have to play fundamental baseball.
Yeah. Make contact.
Yep. Put the ball
Good
in
at
play.
bats. Yep.
Don't make base running mistakes.
Yep.
And that's probably the same thing that it goes with being in the field. If it's one of those that we need to go get these soybeans before they dry down to 9.5%.
Yeah.
We know what that calculation does.
Yeah.
We've done that before.
Just get out. The easiest thing is to go scout. Go look at your crop. Or if you pay someone to do that, go have them. Like, make sure there's not pests moving in or something like that you can prevent very easily.
Yep, get in front of it. That's what I'm saying. It's not all doom and gloom.
You could also sell kidney.
Yes, we could also
Donate sperm.
Plasma's paying
certainly.
good.
I mean, you talk about nitrogen leaching and stuff like that. Yeah, it's not too late to go side dress. Not true side dress, but
Wide drop. Yeah.
or
Top
something
dress.
that hey, what does that 20, 30 pounds extra in pay off in the end when my neighbors are tipping back hard and I'm finishing strong, and there's an extra 15 bushel an acre that I really needed,
Just
to make things work.
Be very careful if you do a high load of KTS with ATS and 32%. Don't ask me
What?
why I know.
What, does it turn into snot, Corey?
No, it's not even snot. It's just like this big old slug.
It's worse than snot?
Yeah, just clogs everything.
That's our PSA for the
I
day.
don't even know if it's unclogged. I was gone all day today.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks. I'll have to deal with it tomorrow.
All right, Andrew, we've talked about what the reality is today. Before we let you go, what do you have to say to the listeners? What can you send them with before we ask you the payoff question for this episode?
Yeah, I think it alludes back to everything else. Yeah, it's a lot of doom and gloomerism, but in the end, farming's a business. Decisions you've made, they are what they are. You can't dwell on the past in the sense of things that you can't change from the past. Take a hard look at where you need to go in the next 6 months, and maybe make a few decisions you're not super stoked about, but that may be the difference between having really tough conversations this fall and okay, well, it wasn't fun, but we're making a go of it. And I mean that's the world of agriculture. I mean we do this every 7 to 10 years, and it's not this isn't our first cycle doing it, but it's being proactive, and whether it's marketing or conversations we need to have with the lenders or whatever, I think that's where guys need to be and get their mindset, and like you said, just let's get the crop raised and in the bin and hope for whatever Mother Nature gives us, and that's really all you can do at some points.
And you mentioned in the beginning, I know we talked about it in November, I think was when we talked to you. What do you do at Lighthouse that sets you guys apart? I mean, there's lots of marketing companies out there that people can work with. What are some of the tools you guys do? What do you do best?
Yeah, I think what we've done best and what's been game changing for our business is our hedge beacon product. It's these price signals, and it paid off again this year, just like it did the year prior. It gives you that push and reminder. Hey, we're algos are telling us we need to be selling grain here, even if the gap hasn't filled or my neighbor hasn't sold his. But it's that kick in the behind to say, I may not be doing everything, but I need to be doing something here. Mm-hmm. And that's been game changing for our business. Like I said, we probably hedged over 50 to 60% of our total corn crop in the month of May, from almost a 10-15% standing start in late April. So
nice.
And all based upon just what signals, and then obviously seasonals to some extent, but I mean to the extent that just letting the market signals tell you what you need to be doing and stuff.
And if someone wanted to start working with your hedge beacon product, wanted to start working with Lighthouse, how does that happen?
Yeah, I mean, just lighthousecommodities.com. You can easily look up our hedge beacon product there. And then obviously our professional merchandising service, advisory service, as well. I guess as it relates to that service, we're your merchant for hire. We're the guys that watch the board. We watch the carries. We watch the basis for guys, and as we've seen here, as guys get busier and busier in their respective operations, it's been the peace of mind for guys to say, hey, I know you guys are watching, you're taking care of it, and it's getting done and done how I want it. And, you come out going, I'm glad we got done what we got done,
mm-hmm.
And stuff. So
that's good. Andrew, we thank you for being a part of this episode. But the payoff question right now is, what is the best thing you have ever eaten, and where did you get it?
Ooh.
I bet you're hungry now. We're just about ready to
Yeah,
finish up. You watched
5
me
o'clock.
eat these hot
Tanner's
dogs.
favorite was that hot dog. Yeah.
Hot dog, and it was at Studio 205, home of the Farm for Profit podcast. Made with love and Corey's hair from somewhere.
I don't know where
that hair came from.
I think we all eat plenty of steak and meat in the Midwest. So, I mean, obviously I've had plenty of good steaks. I think a solid lobster roll sitting in New England somewhere on the seacoast is probably
There you go.
one of the better, more luxuriant meals I've had. Simple, but probably not a great advertisement for the beef industry.
Hey, I love
Hey.
that. I love that answer.
Yeah.
But,
Let's go to New
it's,
England. Get some clam chowder
The
and
chowder.
lobster rolls.
Clam chowder, lobster rolls. So,
Yeah.
maybe we need to find some lobster farmers to
Some oysters.
chat with at some point.
I like it.
We interviewed a crab farmer, or not crab fisher.
That's right.
So, yep, I love that.
Wow.
I'll tell you, we went to 30 Hop last night
Yeah.
in Iowa City over towards Riverside. And I was just thinking to myself, one of the best cheesecake truffle grilled cheese sandwiches. Not cheesecake, I said that wrong.
Yeah, I was like,
Cheesecake,
what?
what?
I was like, dessert
It was
mouthwater?
truffle cheese steak.
Oh, not
But grilled
cheesecake.
cheese. But it was grilled
Cheesesteak.
cheese. It was fantastic. It was like the best ever.
That does
Wow.
sound good.
That's
You
good.
can't go wrong with cheese.
No.
That's right.
So,
Well, Andrew, again, thank you. Pleasure to have you on, even though we didn't get to talk about a lot of super uplifting items today. You did a good job of bringing us the facts, putting it in perspective, and letting us know what the plan is going forward.
yeah, no, appreciate the time, guys. And yeah, not a lot of fun when, the numbers don't quite go the way we hope they do. But I think you got to look at the reality of the situation, kind of, like we said, figure out what we got to address, and keep moving forward, and let's look for a 260, 270 corn crop this fall, and that makes the pain a little less.
Oh man, I don't know if we'll have that here, but
Maybe $100 hogs too.
well, there you go. I heard that Nebraska, some of the corners don't even look any different than the pivot. So
That's not good. We don't want to hear that.
No, that is
I think
not good
we
for
gotta turn-
Iowa corn.
We have got to turn this recording off before you
Yeah,
bring us any
that is
more.
not good. But we've kicked their
bad
butt
news.
for several years, so maybe they're due for one.
There you go.
Good.
So
Well, thanks again, Andrew. We appreciate you hanging out.
Hey, appreciate it. Thanks, guys. You have a great day.